Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Smile and Shine Show, where we talk all things wellness and getting healthy and leading a healthy, happy life. Today, we are joined by Lucinda Bibbs, and she is over at the South Okanagan Counselling in Penticton, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about her as well as her business and the services that they provide to our region and even people outside our region. So welcome, Lucinda. We would love to hear a little bit more about you and South Okanagan Counselling.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Excited to be here, and lovely to meet everyone on this call or watching this video. So South Okanagan Counselling is a group counselling practice. We have 25 therapists right now, and that's made up of one life coach and also a team of practicum counselling students as well. So there's quite a big crew there. I'd say about 60% or 70% of our practitioners work in our office, which is located on Scaha Lake Road. And then we also have a few that provide online video counselling as well.
Wonderful. And how many years have you been there?
We've been in this location 2 years. I am one of two owners of the business. Stephanie Iverson's the other wonderful co-owner there. And she was practicing within private practice under the name of South Okanagan Counselling for about the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. And then in 2022, we decided to merge our two private practices together and create this group practice. And so, as you can see, it's grown fairly quickly, but also really organically as well.
Fantastic. And, as we often think of physical health, I know when we work with people, with programs and everything, it often is about the physical health. And so it's really great to see more and more people, and just for it to be more common that we need to look after our mental health as well, and make sure that we're doing more than just the physical walk out there, that we're working through things with somebody that has some skills and knowledge that help us process life as life gets challenging, whether it's a business owner or a family or a person. So maybe share with us the types of clients that you see and you help.
Yeah. I love you touched on that, because I think sometimes we look at things, especially in terms of wellness, from the outside. And mental health is one of those things, right? You can see someone with a broken arm, but you can't see someone that's really struggling, right, with their anxieties or depression or relationship and so forth. And I don't really think you can have one without the other. And sometimes it starts, right, with the mental health without psychology and what's happening within, because whatever's happening within is a reflection of what's happening on the outside as well. So really big point. And following, obviously, COVID-19 and the pandemic, I think as many challenges as that time came with, and probably still does to certain people, it was able to really shine a spotlight on just how crucial mental health is, especially when we start to remove all of those external pieces, right? And where a lot of people at that time were left alone, sitting with themselves and kind of having to turn inwards a little bit. And so it really kind of, I think, brought mental health a bit more into the primary, spotlight and priority for a lot of people. So in regards to counseling itself, I mean, sometimes people ask, is counseling for me? Who's it for? How unwell do you have to be in showing up in life to need counseling or to seek counseling? And my belief, being in this, practice for well over 10 years now, and being a therapist as well as a client, is this for everyone, right? And it can be, more needed at different times of people's lives, but it really is something that can probably work for everyone, from, someone who's kind of doing really, really well in life, but just noticing, some bumps showing up for them, in how they show up, maybe in work or in relationships, all the way down to someone that's just really, really struggling to get out of bed in the morning, right? So I really do feel it's something that everyone can benefit from.
Yeah, and we often talk about preventative versus reactive, and even in the physical health world, we're busy, we keep going, we keep pushing, our check engine light is on, but we keep going until we crash. And I think mental health on that physical level as well, the mental health is still the same. I think there's huge benefit, and that's part of the reason for the Smile and Shine show is that let's get proactive with our health. Let's do preventative. Let's take care of ourselves now so we have the tools when something happens. We can maybe ride that wave a little smoother. So I really like that you say that it's for everyone, and something that is, maybe bothering you could turn out to be something bigger later. And if we could address it earlier and work through it earlier, perhaps that's the better way to go. So I think that's really nice to hear you say that it's for everyone. And so what is the process? If someone's thinking they would like to explore counseling, what's the process with South Okanagan Counselling?
Yeah, so with South Okanagan Counselling specifically, there are a number of ways in which you can connect with us. We obviously have a website, www.southokanagancounselling.com, which I'm sure these details will be in the notes of the video as well. Through the website, there are a few pieces you can go through. It's a contact form, which should be to fill the form out on the website. That'll be asking a little bit of information about yourself, what you're seeking counseling for, in addition to more logistical pieces like times and availabilities, because obviously all the different therapists work different times. And when that's submitted, you'll be contacted back either with a match of a therapist or with a time to maybe connect if some more questions need to be asked or something like that. There's also another option, which is to book a consult. So everyone can have a free 15-minute consult over the phone. That will be with our clinical director or our intake coordinator. And through kind of sharing some of the reasons in which you want to sort of explore counseling, they'll be able to kind of get a sense of like, what your needs are and who might be the best fit for a therapist. The piece around counseling, it's like, for some people that have really benefited from it in the past to others that have kind of said, I've gone and it wasn't for me. It's an interesting service in the sense that like the client and the therapist relationship and the match is the key piece to it being a successful and fulfilling process, because you could meet with one therapist and be like, oh, nope, we definitely didn't click, to another that it's like, oh my gosh, that was completely life-changing. They see me, they hear me, they get me, and we can do some really great work here. So we have a wonderful retention rate across the board with our therapists, and I think a lot of that is with that ensuring that match is the right match. Once you've connected, you're all booked in with your therapist, whether that be online or in person, you'll be sent an intake form. It's very brief questions. I often emphasize to clients too, you choose what you complete. The one thing we do ask is an informed consent, and that really is around that confidentiality piece. Nothing leaves this room. Unless either of us choose it needs to leave this room, and that's usually around if anyone's in harm to self or to others, and that's been disclosed in the therapy room, and that's a really collaborative process. Other times things might be released in terms of if something was going to court or might support a court case or something like that, but really, in my experience in over a decade, nothing's left the room unless it's been an ICBC court case. And it's just been that really great piece of resource. So first session is kind of that like, you share your problem or what we think is our problem. And sometimes there ends to be a lot more depth that comes from it. The therapist will sort of explore in a very organic way, not so much of a structured, questionnaire checklist way. What's showing up for you, right? What are the challenges? How is that showing up in your life? How is that maybe causing problems in your life? How are you coping with it right now, right? What are we using to cope? What support systems do we have? And it really helps create a picture of, a deep understanding, right, of where we're at. And then from that, where we want to go, like, what do we want to see change here? There is also kind of this, less formal relational piece, right, where we're getting an understanding of someone's character, personalities, things that might already be working for them, or things they really like interested in or lean into. And the process there onwards is really going to be personalized to fit that individual. Right. Yeah. So if I love books and I love learning and I love homework, then great, let's go that path. If that doesn't fit for me, it's not going to be something that's you. So it really is a personal process. And that first session is really about creating an understanding of like what's needed here. Of course, every therapist is different, and many will specialize in certain modalities of therapy. That might be cognitive behavioral therapy, which people are very familiar with, trauma-informed modalities like EMDR. While no therapist is fixed in that way, if that is something that really seems like it's going to be a really good fit for someone's challenges, then that will probably be a bit of a match. And maybe the experience might come with a bit more of a structure influenced by those modalities as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of hard conversations, but, I know often people say, oh, well, how many times do I have to go? And obviously that's different for everybody, every single situation. Certainly in a perfect world, if someone's comfortable, we're meeting with the counselor fairly regularly to work through things.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, and this is where the sort of counseling's for everyone piece, it might be that, you've got a new relationship, right? And you're really struggling with some boundary pieces or communication pieces. And that might be that in a few sessions, you're like, yeah, okay, I can really see, where my challenges is there, where my hesitations is there. And I've got these tools now to implement a boundary or to communicate a little better. And that could be it. Or it could have kind of been the top of the iceberg, which underneath is like, shoot, you know what? This is highlighting that I really do have problems with boundaries in all areas of my life. This is showing up in work. It's showing up with family. It's showing up with kids and so forth. And then you might start to explore, well, what's that about, right? Where did that kind of, where was that source from? And usually that speaks to this bigger picture of like the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves in the world and our perception. And it might be that journey with your therapist is kind of closed up, but it might be that 6 months down the road, it's like, I've got this relationship, I have this therapist here, this is showing up now, and you can start another frequent visit. Usually when you start therapy, once a week for the first few weeks is a really good pace to kind of gain traction, get the understanding and so forth, and then it usually starts to spread out for bi-weekly from there. And again, it could be anywhere from 6 sessions, 20 sessions, it could be years. It really depends on the individual.
Definitely. And I know not everyone has benefits, but do you have any of the benefit connections there?
Yeah, so South Okanagan Counselling, each counsellor is either a registered clinical counsellor, a Canadian certified counsellor, or a registered social worker. So what you will usually find, and we always encourage people to check their benefit plans if you have one, that one or all of those 3 are going to be covered. And it will either be covered for a certain number of sessions per year or a certain amount per year, and it usually rolls over for most people. Then we also collaborate with a number of different government programs as well as private programs. So this might be, for example, there's a SAGE program which is youth, specifically for youth. It's a very, very new, actually. I don't think too many people know about it. I'm still getting familiar with it myself. You've registered under the BC Housing Program, if I'm correct. There is pieces like Work BC. If you're registered with Work BC looking for work, you get 10 free sessions of counselling if that's going to be of help for all of you to set up your work readiness. There is, of course, WorkSafe and ICBC when you've got claims running through, Crime Victim Assistance Program. I myself and a few of the clinicians work with Canada Game Plan, which is for Canadian athletes. So that's a really great program. We also work with First Nations Health Authority and Métis, which also get a number of counselling sessions under their status and registration. And I'm sure there's a few more autism funding, and that funding serves the person of diagnosis and also all the family members living in the household. So that would be siblings in addition to parents. So there's a number of programs that can really support counseling in a financial way. And we just encourage people to explore. It's all listed on our website, and ask for those. Cost can be a really big barrier to counseling. So, and we recognize that. And one of the biggest pieces that we've put a lot of investment and intention around is providing a low-cost program. And so South Okanagan Counselling currently have 5 servicing therapists accepting new clients right now under our low-cost program, which is $50 plus GST per session, per 50-minute session. And we're able to run this through having Masters of Counselling students complete their practicum with us. And so these, sometimes people hear the word student and think, oh no, they don't have the experience, or, we have several students that already got their Masters of Education. They're already working in a counselling type profession, a wellness profession. And so it's a really wonderful team for ourselves that we can speak to, that have a wealth of experience already, and are able to offer this low cost service. So
that's amazing. And so nice to hear that you just really help a wide variety of people out there. And certainly, as we see businesses sometimes and work with businesses, I always, chuckle again. They have, let's say, 3 visits with a naturopath, physio, or chiro. I really am hoping that we can have a few more conversations together where we're normalizing that you're using 3 or 4 sessions with a counselor every year, right? We do it with the physical side of things because it's, oh, my back hurts. Right.
Yeah.
And we work on that. And so I think it's so good that you've just got all different levels so that we can make sure that as many people as possible are being reached and have access to this. So definitely, as we, put the video and share it out there, we'll put the links to get connected with you. But perhaps you can share a little bit about yourself and what you're working on as Lucinda.
So I do a lot for myself, and I really am one of those people that just loves to explore and view life, and my own health is a bit of an experiment as well. I really truly embody the practices that I believe in, and that I work with clients to embody as well. And so I firmly believe in both the psychological and the physical pieces to wellness and to optimal health and well-being. And so in addition to participating in my own therapy, both in a clinical counseling realm as well as a life coaching realm, I also do all the physical things. And it's kind of like that pyramid, right? Like, what does your foundation look like? And what do we need to really get ourselves set up for success and set up in a really stable, solid place where we can grow grow from this. I think sometimes there's so much information out there and there's so much stuff you can do, and you're like, oh, that sounds great, right? And you might do it and it works for a little while, and then you lose your job or your sleep's going off, and then it's like, oh, I couldn't sustain that. So for me, my big motto is eat, sleep, move, and connect. I believe we're wired for connection. Relationships is everything, not just with, our friends or our family, but with nature and with ourselves. Sleep is the fundamental. Sleep is so important, and it's the piece that gives us like that physical healing and that energy, right, to act and to step in and to show up. And so I really focus on the sleep piece. Eat, nutrition, right? How do we fuel our body? And notice how that makes us feel, right? And it's kind of, I always teach my kids with this, but it's like the head brain, right? The gluttony, desirable brain. There, things look and seem appealing, and then it's connecting with our other gut brain of like, how's that going to make me feel? And then moving my body. That's something that's come fairly easily to me. I've always been a mover. I've always been engaged in some form of sport or exercise. It looks a little bit different these days in terms of maybe slowing some of that competitive piece down and doing it more in what works for me and what's keeping me connected, as opposed to kind of having me run away literally and metaphorically from things. So keeping me in my body. I'm currently training for a Spartan race. I really, really enjoy those. It's like in nature, natural movements. It's a big one in Big White coming up. Very cool. And breath work. So for me in my therapy practice, I was really noticing like there's so many tools and working a lot with like cognitive behavioral pieces, right? And ways to change our mind and perception. But there seems to be a bit of a gap in terms of learning these tools and knowing these tools and kind of having these tools on a good day and actually being able to embody them as part of our life and the way we live. And I recently, or in the last few years, really was able to connect that through our breath. And so I'm currently in quite an extensive training to become a breathwork facilitator. And it has been a huge piece of my more recent growth in the last few years as well, of really embodying this optimal well-being and being able to really show up in my fullest expression in life. So huge on breath. If anyone wants to learn about breath.
Well, and that's, again, all the conversations are about inspiring everyone to, if we asked you, what is your self-care routine? Somebody has that, or they're working on it, and what does it look like? And as they get started, it might be as simple as walking around the block once, right? We're meeting people where they're at. And if that's where your self-care routine starts, then we're going to cheer that on and going to keep going. And then they just find out what they need, add on to that, learn more. And it's unique for everybody. So thank you for sharing those pieces. And so that certainly looks like there are several more topics and categories that you and I could chat about.
Oh, yes.
Right? To share with people on, again, taking charge of their health and, getting healthy moving forward. So overall, the ways to get connected with you are the South Okanagan Counselling website.
Yes. South Okanagan Counselling website. We obviously can be contacted by phone, email, info@southokcounselling.com. We also have South Okanagan Counselling on Instagram and on Facebook. And you can text our number as much as calling. We can also receive text messages as well, because I know that sometimes that communication piece and picking up the phone can be difficult, right? And we're all more familiar with other forms of communication right now. So text is an option too.
Well, that's wonderful. I will get all that listed in for people so that they can see the details. And I definitely look forward to booking another time with you for us to talk about a few more pieces that you've just brought up for everyone. And overall, thank you for your time, Lucinda, and certainly South Okanagan Counselling. I can't wait to share with everybody your websites and your links and encourage people to get connected with you, even if they don't need you or pick up the phone in the next month, perhaps it's seed planting for future, and just knowing there's an organization here for us that can help us in a variety of different ways to lead a healthy, happy life. So
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucinda, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Wonderful. Thanks, Denise.